9 o'clock news. Before that on BBC One with Michael Burke.
1 million more refugees are threatening another disaster in Rwanda. A second exodus when the French troops pull out. The row over the teenage thief sent to a holiday camp at the taxpayers' expense who burgled 9 chalets. And Linford Christie storms home on a golden night for Britain. Good evening. More than 1 million Hutus living under the protection of French troops in the southwest of Rwanda are threatening to flee if the French continue to withdraw. Already 300,000 are on the move. The French say they'll pull out of the protection zone they established in late June within a fortnight. Another flood of refugees could then descend on the Bukavu region of Zaire, creating a crisis to rival that at Goma to the north.
The French were criticised for coming here, now they are criticised for leaving. But their withdrawal has already begun and they intend to be gone within 2 weeks. They will be replaced by a multinational African peacekeeping force. But paranoia drove 1 million people to catastrophe at Goma, and paranoia is stirring among the people of the French protected zone. They believe they must flee or be killed.
The military of RPF arrive in our country. They kill people. They kill all people, always.
We have lived the experience. We have seen some brothers who has been killed.
The aid agencies have heard this before. They know what it can lead to.
A lot of the displaced are coming up to us and saying, oh, we're very frightened, we don't know what's going to happen when the French leave. As soon as they go, we're going to go as well. And also, over the past 10 days, we've seen there hasn't been very much food distribution, so there's not really anything physical to encourage people to stay. I mean, we're very worried that they're just going to pick up and go. Obviously, everyone hopes they won't.
The movement has already begun. The UNHCR has counted 300,000 who have crossed the border so far. It is a measure of the scale of things here that this number is considered a trickle. Border camps housing tens of thousands are already springing up, not as yet the inhuman sprawl of Goma, but an ominous foreshadowing of it. The French have imposed a system of civil administration across the region, which they say has disempowered the men of the old regime, the men whose propaganda caused the Goma exodus. Everything depends on whether the French can build in the people the confidence to stay when they leave. If they fail, this border crossing could be visited by a tragedy on the scale of Goma.
We're trying to prevent another Goma. It's really a very important responsibility to convince them to wait, to stay on their hills, in their fields.
The aid agencies are not ready for a second exodus, 1 million strong. If it comes, their response will be no more adequate than the bridge across which it will flow. Alan Little, BBC News in southwestern Rwanda.
About 2,000 refugees a day are now crossing back into Rwanda from Goma in Zaire, although many of them are falling ill during the long journey. A contingent of British troops is now in northern Rwanda, working in the field hospitals which have been established to help refugees return home.
6 days walking from the refugee camp in Goma and 3 more to go to their village. No food, dehydrated and ill, the sort of family that is swamping the aid resources currently in place on the roads back into Rwanda. Those reaching the Médecins Sans Frontières treatment centre at Ruhengeri are a tiny fraction of the potential number who might return, and MSF cannot cope now.
We're working from mornings to evening and we are extremely tired, and we're still lacking people, and we have so many people which are coming that we hardly can cope.
While he was attempting to rehydrate this woman, the baby we'd seen minutes earlier died. Against these odds, the international aid effort is beginning to come together. The British parachute field ambulance team is arriving in Ruhengeri, scrubbing out a filthy and looted hospital building, while shunting extra beds to the hard-pressed MSF centre next door.
We can provide a source of clean water, basic first aid, and we also have facilities to deal with diarrheal illnesses, for instance. We'll do what we can with the resources we've got.
An Australian field hospital arrived in the capital in the early hours, and a Canadian one is on its way north. Everyone's trying to get up and running while the mass of refugees is still in Goma. However, the new Rwandan Prime Minister just wants his population back now.
We cannot pretend to have an economy or any political situation without a population. It's like telling me to go and be Prime Minister in the Sahara Desert. I will not accept.
No one involved in this entire operation knows if the refugees are going to stay put in the camps, or if they're going to start coming back in groups small enough to be helped on the road, or as they went to Zaire in a human tidal wave. For the moment, only a few thousand a day are struggling home. Kate Adey, BBC News, Kigali.
Here, the Social Services Minister, John Bowis, has called for a report into the case of a teenage offender sent to a holiday camp as part of a therapeutic programme. The 14-year-old boy burgled chalets at the Center Parks holiday village after being sent there with 2 social workers.
Almost as soon as the boy arrived at the Center Parks holiday village at Elvedon in Suffolk, he gave the 2 social workers with him the slip and began stealing cash, cameras and jewellery from other guests' chalets. Center Parks says the social workers had booked in as a family and are considering legal action because they weren't told the real reason for the visit.
We've now found out that he was brought in with the social workers masquerading as his parents and had literally skipped off almost as soon as he'd arrived. He'd been running around the village for a day or so. It's a decision that just defies common sense.
The teenager had been in the care of the Hartsdean Trust, a therapeutic organisation which is making no comment. Essex County Council had placed the boy with them and knew of the trip to Center Parks, but would not condemn all holiday trips for young offenders.
I've refused requests from other places to take young people abroad. I don't think that's appropriate. But as part of a treatment programme with an organisation that has a good reputation taking place in the UK as part of the overall cost, I think it needs to be judged, each case on its merits.
Local authorities were told to stop sending young offenders on foreign trips earlier this year, but ministers say even in this country, activities should be genuinely challenging.
I think this sends out all the wrong signals, both to the public and to other young people who are not offenders. It appears to be saying, here is another young offender who is being rewarded by being sent to a fairly expensive holiday camp. That is not the message we want to get across.
Since the visit to Center Parks in March, the young offender has been placed in secure accommodation. Fergus Walsh, BBC News.
The government says it will protect Cornish trawlers heading back to the tuna fisheries off the Spanish coast. A second Royal Navy protection vessel has been sent to the Bay of Biscay. But members of the Cornish fleet are angry at the treatment of the Newlyn-based trawler, the Charisma, which had its nets impounded by the Navy. They were found to exceed European regulations, but only by a very small margin.
Finally unloaded, the tuna fish caught by the Charisma in the international waters around the Bay of Biscay. For the crew, this was the end of a long and difficult trip. They were released from Devonport after Ministry of Agriculture officials had spent 5 hours measuring their nets. The fishery protection officers who'd boarded the Charisma to escort her to the naval base, leaving clear evidence of their visit. It was force which the skipper believes should have been saved for the problems at the fishing grounds.
Yeah, I can understand why we was picked on when there were Spanish vessels there, and instead of going straight to the help of another boat, they come straight to us and started their action, their actions.
There's 2.5 kilometres on this boat, no more.
The boat's owner has always maintained the nets fell within the 2.5 kilometres permitted by European regulations. Ministry officials measured the nets as slightly longer than that, but after allowing for stretching in the water, the difference was viewed as reasonable. The whole episode has left the Cornish fishing community deeply disillusioned with the government's handling of the matter at a time when Spanish fishermen are still threatening to cut British nets. But the British presence in the tuna fishing fields is being increased, with HMS Alderney heading out to join the Anglesey. And the message from the government is now clear.
I hope that we can restore proper order in this fishery, but it's not acceptable for our fishermen to be intimidated by the Spanish fishermen taking the law into their own hands. That is not acceptable to us and must not be acceptable to the Spanish either.
Cornish boats are returning to the area. The Abergagan, which had its nets cut last week, took on borrowed nets today. It's expected to leave before the weekend. And other skippers who've just got back say they won't be driven away.
We might be small, but some way we'll keep going. We're determined. There's a fleet of boats going to be sailing from here in the next week or so, and we're not stopping for anything.
And the crews here want that determination backed by strong support from the British government. Alison Holt, BBC News, Newlyn in Cornwall.
Thousands of angry Spanish fishermen have been demonstrating tonight about the use of drift nets to catch tuna by other countries. They marched through the streets of the fishing port of Bermeo. They accuse their own government of standing on the sidelines while tuna stocks are fished out.
The clearest indication yet of Basque solidarity. This evening, thousands of fishermen, their families and supporters demonstrated their opposition to drift net fishing. Earlier, fishermen in a nearby town gathered bait for this week's voyage to the shoals of tuna which lie hundreds of miles out in the Bay of Biscay. But before they returned to their traditional fishing grounds, where the attacks on British and French vessels took place, the 11 mayors of this coastal region are endeavouring to calm the fishermen's anger. Today, they met a Basque government minister who announced jointly with Madrid a scheme to label tuna caught by rod and line.
The European Union should change its fishing law so that drift nets, which are so devastating, are eventually banned.
The Spanish government is attempting to preserve some measure of command by considering all sides. The fishermen here are clearly prepared to defend their fishing grounds from British, Irish and French boats using illegal nets and breaching European law and ultimately destroying their livelihoods. But after weeks of frustration, even leaders of the community admit their most strenuous efforts to soothe fishermen could prove inadequate.
When they go to fish and they see the other foreign boats fishing illegally, they will be very angry. They will be asked to stop. If they don't stop, we don't know how it happens there. We don't know how is the reaction of our men in the sea, because they are really, really very, very hungry.
With the fleet fueled with anger and frustration, only setting sail from here in a few days, any fresh confrontation with British ships shouldn't occur until the end of the week. David Robertson, BBC News, Bermeo.
The border between Israel and Jordan has been partially opened for the first time since Arab armies went to war with Israel 46 years ago. The formal ceremony took place on the crossing between Eilat in Israel and Aqaba in Jordan. It's the latest in a series of moves towards peace between the two countries. 2 weeks ago, an interim peace agreement was signed in Washington. Yesterday, telephone links were reopened, and from today, the border will be open for tourists, although not yet for Israelis or Jordanians.
Israel's border with Jordan, until today closed and littered with mines. But now the barriers are coming down with a speed which has taken many on both sides by surprise. The Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin and Jordan's Crown Prince Hassan together at the first official crossing point between their two countries. 2 pairs of scissors, all it took to cut through almost 5 decades of hostile separation.
In a short time, tourists and businessmen from all over the world will start to pass through here from Eilat to Aqaba, from Aqaba to Eilat, from Israel to Jordan, and from Jordan to Israel.
The American Secretary of State, Warren Christopher, was the first foreign visitor to use the new road on his latest Middle East peace mission.
Here in the land of miracles, the rhetoric of peacemaking is giving way and being translated into reality.
The final words were left to Crown Prince Hassan, who, in the spirit of the occasion, quoted in Hebrew from the Old Testament. Turning the valley of trouble into a gate of hope was the phrase, a sentiment shared by families of soldiers killed in Israeli-Jordanian wars who embraced and exchanged gifts. Yitzhak Rabin then made his first public visit to Jordan. He and King Hussein have developed a warm relationship which they hope will help to transform the Middle East. Two leaders on a boat, a carefully chosen seaborne photo opportunity, an image of harmony in a troubled region. But both leaders can have no illusions. A comprehensive Middle East peace still lies far away. A road now connects Eilat and Aqaba, but for the time being it's only open for foreign tourists. That's the nature of the present peace process, a gradual and largely symbolic breaking down of barriers that have taken deep root over almost 50 years. Stephen Saka, BBC News, Eilat, Israel.
A part-time soldier has been shot dead in his butcher's shop in Northern Ireland. The police say the attack happened in the centre of Crossgar in County Down. It's the second terrorist killing in Northern Ireland in the last 36 hours.
Two terrorists struck at 20 to 3 this afternoon, killing a part-time soldier in the shop he owned. Eyewitnesses said one gunman walked in and fired at least 3 shots. The shopkeeper tried to run out through the back door but was hit in the head. His killers escaped on a motorbike. The victim was Trelford Withers, a Protestant man, 46, married with a family. He was a corporal in the Royal Irish Regiment, which recruits locally in Northern Ireland. Its soldiers, past and present, have frequently been attacked by the IRA. The village of Crossgar has prided itself on the good relations between the Protestants and Catholics who live together here. The murder of a neighbour by terrorists has shocked this quiet, mixed community.
You see many people out here in the street today. Those are the ordinary local people of Crossgar who are totally shocked and horrified and would condemn this act of violence. Violence is alien to this community, something that's totally foreign, something we didn't know anything about.
Yesterday, loyalist terrorists murdered a Catholic pregnant woman in front of her children. She was a mother of 5. Today in Crossgar, a Protestant father of 5 children was shot dead by Republican gunmen. For all the talk of peace, families in both communities continue to pay a dreadful price. George Eakin, BBC News, Crossgar.
The media tycoon Rupert Murdoch has said he might give his backing to the Labour leader Tony Blair. Mr Murdoch told a German magazine that he was traditionally a Conservative, but could imagine supporting Labour in the future. Mr Murdoch's papers, including The Sun and The Times, have usually been strong supporters of the Conservative Party. Leaders of the Signal Workers Union, the RMT, have called for further talks at the conciliation service ACAS to try to break the deadlock in the rail dispute. They want to clarify the exact terms of Railtrack's latest offer before they agree to restart direct negotiations.
Railtrack's strike bulletin makes a direct appeal to the strikers to suspend industrial action, get in touch with the union leadership and discuss what's on the table. But the union leadership says it hasn't been told what's on offer.
Railtrack have been negotiating now for a long time with through the press and the media, rather than do it directly across the table at ACAS. And we need some firm evidence that there is some true negotiations to take place.
There's some pressure on the union. Its leader, Jimmy Knapp, is appealing for international financial help at a conference of transport unions in Geneva. Earlier in the summer, the RMT conference discussed a lack of funds, falling membership and now the strike hitting coffers. Apart from union money worries, Railtrack is advertising for signal workers. Replacing the strikers with new recruits remains a Railtrack option, though it says a drastic, distant one. The wait for progress continues, even as both sides assert that it's exactly what they want, feeling their way towards talks. Despite the approach to ACAS, it's too soon to say that we're now in the end game of this dispute. It is by no means clear that the long weekend of strikes that starts in just over 3 days' time can be avoided. Stephen Evans, BBC News, RMT headquarters.
There's been a big increase in the amount of money that people are borrowing, with a near record amount being withdrawn on credit cards. Government figures show that borrowing in June reached £683 million, 3 times the amount for the previous month. Credit card spending increased to £267 million, the second highest monthly figure on record. Roderick Newell, the former army officer who murdered his parents at their Jersey home 7 years ago, has been jailed for life. His brother Mark, who admitted helping dispose of the bodies, was sentenced to 6 years in prison.
Mark Newell, a young and successful financier who concealed a terrible crime. His elder brother Roderick, the former soldier who bludgeoned his parents to death. Nicholas Newell, a wealthy, retired Lloyd's name, died in a hail of blows in the family bungalow. His wife Elizabeth was killed in a similar brutal fashion after celebrating her 48th birthday. Their sons showed no emotion as the charges were read out in Jersey's ancient royal court. A judge and 10 court officials heard details of a case which had baffled police for more than 6 years. The breakthrough came at a hotel in Scotland where Roderick Newell confessed to his uncle, a conversation tape recorded by police. This was the moment when the Royal Navy caught up with the suspect, who was on his way to Brazil. He was asked to leave his yacht and bring his papers for routine inspection. He didn't realise it was a trap. Roderick Newell was taken to Gibraltar. There followed a 14-month extradition battle, ending when he came back to Jersey last November. He led police to where he had left his parents' bodies. He and his brother had wrapped them in polythene sheeting and buried them in a grave 3 feet deep. In a statement, Roderick Newell described a drunken family row, which reopened old wounds. He said his father pushed him over. As he got up, he seized a rice flail, a martial arts weapon, and struck his father. He ran into the bedroom in a panic, and there he saw his mother. He knew then he'd attacked her. As the brothers were taken away, police admitted tonight they still had not established a motive. The Holiday Islands' biggest murder mystery still holds some secrets. Chris West, BBC News, Jersey.
The singer George Michael is to appeal against a High Court decision not to overturn his contract with the record company Sony. George Michael had claimed his 15-year contract amounted to professional slavery, but in June the High Court ruled against him. The case is already believed to have cost the singer £3 million. The Bosnian Serbs have imposed a 60-hour working week and banned holidays in the latest of a series of emergency measures to combat a blockade imposed by Serbia. The Bosnian Serb leader, Radovan Karadzic, has insisted they can survive the new economic sanctions, which were introduced after he rejected the latest peace plan. But his leadership was isolated further today when he failed to win the outright support of the Serbian Orthodox Church.
An attempt to heal the rift between Serbs was made by the head of the one institution they all share, the Serbian Orthodox Church. Patriarch Pavle spent 3 hours with the Bosnian Serb leadership in their capital, Pale. They had hoped he would support them. Instead, he urged reconciliation. We came on a mission of peace, he said, general peace and peace among brethren. It is our Christian duty. When the meeting with the Patriarch was over, the Bosnian Serbs returned to planning their future in wartime without the usual allies.
We understand that they can't follow us any longer. We understand that they have to go their own way, but they should understand that we have to go our own way, and we have our own state. And the international community should come close to this reality and to recognize our state, and then we will see what territories we can give back.
But how much will they give back? One of their ministers, Velibor Ostojic, a war hero to the Serbs, a war criminal to the Muslims, produced maps of Bosnia and demanded living space for his people.
It's not a question of percentage or quantity, it's a question of quality. And living space.
The Serbs are now making a daily attempt to put their case to the world. They claim the proposed division of Bosnia would leave them only with the rocks and the rattlesnakes. A government official here said that until now we have fought this war in a pretty relaxed kind of way. Under the new conditions, that is going to change. Martin Bell, BBC News, Pale.
Some crucial supplies still seem to be reaching the Bosnian Serbs from Serbia itself, despite Belgrade's promise last week to cut economic and political links. The United Nations is considering further sanctions against the Yugoslav Republic if they fail to stop supplying fuel and arms to the Bosnian Serbs. Sue Lloyd-Roberts reports from the border on how effective the blockade is proving.
When the blockade was announced 4 days ago, it was being called the Iron Curtain between the Serbian people. Today, they were setting symbols of Serbian national unity on the border which divides Bosnia from the rump Yugoslavia, and buses ferried Serbs from one side to the other as usual. It's going to be okay, said this man. There are going to be no problems. After all, we are all Serbs. The blockade is intended to let local people food and humanitarian aid pass the border, while lorries carrying arms and fuel to the war in Bosnia must be stopped. But in these early days at least, its implementation is patchy, with some drivers complaining they're not even getting their legal cargo through. Elsewhere, packed cars, buses and even lorries are let through on a nod.
In half an hour, I've counted 6 lorries and buses going through this barrier without being checked until the police told us to stop filming. 4 days after its installation, there are definite chinks appearing in this so-called Iron Curtain.
Overall, there's confusion, perhaps because the last time President Milosevic called a blockade, it was lifted within days, and no one knows how seriously to take this one. Only the President can tell us how long we must wait, this driver said wearily. It's a confusion that's shared by most Serbs in the rump Yugoslavia, who, up until now, have been funding the Serbian war effort across the border in Bosnia. But if the Serbs fail to convince the Western powers that they mean to cut ties with the Serbs of Bosnia, then newer, tougher UN sanctions are threatened here too. And to avoid this, it may be necessary to prove that they're prepared to draw the noose around Bosnia tighter still. Sue Lloyd-Roberts, BBC News, on the border between Bosnia and Yugoslavia.
Cricket. England and South Africa drew the second test at Headingley. England declared at lunch, leaving South Africa to score 298. The match petered out, with South Africa finishing on 116 for 3. Graham Hick provided the highlight of the day with 110. It's his first century in home test matches and only his second for England overall. Linford Christie and Steve Backley both won gold medals at the European Athletics Championships tonight. Christie took the 100 metres for the third successive time, and Backley won the javelin for the second successive time.
Linford Christie just keeps on confounding preconceptions of the effects of age on athletic performance. At 34, most athletes, let alone sprinters, have applied for the sporting equivalent of the bus pass, a seat in the commentary box perhaps, or a cosy PR job. Christie still races in the fast lane and always wins when it counts.
The fourth time they go. Christie got away reasonably well, but it's Paul Kamowski, and Christie trying to get through, but Byrne is there. Christie comes storming through. Christie wins, Byrne second, Paul Kamowski third.
Olympic champion, world champion, and now for an unprecedented third time, European champion. The T-shirt proclaiming a third title had of course been pre-printed, both in expectation and with that touch of arrogance that shrouds the shoulders of most great champions.
Title is what it's all about, and I wouldn't discount the fourth one yet. Yeah, it is. We'll just get back into training and see what happens.
While Christie refuses to fade away, Steve Backley keeps coming back. A career dogged by injury, resurrected again today by an 85-metre throw that was comfortably sufficient to make him champion again.
I was buzzing out there. Honestly, I've never felt so emotional, and got everything into the throw, and after that I just went flat. I think it's all out of me. I'll probably wake up refreshed again tomorrow and be jumping around like a loony.
And so will the rest of the British team if the start they've been given inspires further success. Kevin Geary, BBC News.
Tonight's main news again. Another huge exodus is threatened in Rwanda, with fears that 1 million more people could flee when French troops pull out. More on Newsnight on BBC Two at 10:30, but from the 9 o'clock news, good night.
Good evening. The parents of Julie Finlay, who was found strangled in Skelmersdale on Saturday, want anyone with information to contact the police. Detectives say that Julie, who was 23 and from Liverpool, was known to associate with vice girls, but her mother says she was not a prostitute.
No, not at all. But I know one thing, Julie was no prostitute. Maybe she spoke to them, that's no harm in that. Maybe she, associated with them, that's no harm. Where she lived in the Light District Park, Julie, but as I say, students lived down there too, and they weren't prostitutes. Same as my daughter. And if Julie was a prostitute, it would have come right home to me and told me, and no one told me anything about her, and I have faith in my daughter. She wouldn't go that low.
A man is recovering at home after being stabbed while tackling a burglar at Swinton in Manchester. Police are treating the incident as attempted murder, and a man is being questioned by detectives. Robin Anderson reports.
The outcome could have been worse. Billy Jolly's throat and lung were stabbed, in addition to his foot and hand. He was in bed when he and his wife heard a loud noise. Looking outside, he saw a burglar next door. He chased him in his dressing gown and pinned him down, but he and a neighbour who came to help were stabbed.
I didn't give it a second thought. It was something that just come natural. I just went out to tackle him, to stop him getting away with robbing somebody's house.
A girl from Liverpool with speech and hearing difficulties is recovering after two girls approached her at a bus stop and squirted superglue into her eyes. 16-year-old Lorraine Katarius was treated in hospital and later released. And that's it for us for now. We're back with Breakfast News at just before 6:30 tomorrow morning. Now here's John Ketley with a look at tomorrow's weather.
A very good evening to you. A very quiet end to the test match, of course, at Headingley today, and some pretty quiet weather to go with it countrywide. But now we're seeing some showers breaking out to the southwest of Wales and also down to the south of Cornwall. That could well be a sign of things to come later on tonight, with a flash of lightning, a rumble of thunder and more pulse of rain coming out of northern France, perhaps approaching the Channel Islands at the same time. Further north, quite a cool night. It could turn misty in the glens of Scotland, but a lot of cloud hugging that North Sea coast as the night goes on. Now, the reason for the showers coming into the southwest, this area of low pressure moving ever closer. And with that area of low pressure, you'll also find the winds beginning to freshen during Tuesday as well. Really quite strong winds developing across much of England and Wales as we go through the day. And those showers advancing as well, probably up to the Bristol Channel across to the London area by about 10 o'clock tomorrow evening. A fair amount of cloud to start the day up in the north and east. Some sunshine in the south and the west though. But like today, you will find that sunshine coming and going throughout the day. But those showers becoming more widespread through the West Country and certainly in the Channel Islands as we go through the afternoon into the evening, and there could again be the odd rumble of thunder returning to those more southern counties. Further north, not a bad day at all. Some sunshine at times, temperatures like today about 16 to 19 and certainly less windy as you go through Northern Ireland and Scotland, but quite a noticeable wind tomorrow in the south, though you could reach 24 degrees I guess across parts of southern England. Well, tomorrow night, around about midnight, we'll find those heavy bursts of rain and some thunder across many parts of South Wales, across southern England to about Essex and Suffolk. With that area of low pressure moving northeastwards then during Wednesday, we'll find that rain becoming more extensive once again. It'll be rather showery in nature, but there will be some embedded heavy rain and some thunderstorms around as well. Northern limit of the rain at this stage seems to be about Anglesey across to the Humber, so Lincolnshire catching a pasting as well during Wednesday. It'll turn windy actually in many parts of the country, but the north and the west staying basically dry and bright. And on Thursday you will find that brighter weather pushing southward once again, but for central and eastern parts of England, more heavy showers on Thursday and still some thunder as well. Well, that's it from me. I'll wish you a very pleasant night.
From forest to skyscraper in the blink of an eye. In the concrete jungle, the human animal, compulsively tribal, always territorial. How do we organise our lives in the artificial world of the human zoo? Desmond Morris's fascinating natural history of the human species. The Human Animal, Wednesday, 9:30 on BBC One.
New drama on BBC One. Edward Woodward, Tim Healy and Roy Hudd are common as muck.
I want to see clean streets, completed rounds. And above all, your lads remembering their bin men, not a bunch of gorillas.
Paul Rees is the healer.
Help me. It's a miracle. That young doctor healed me.
It's what we teach them.
Half the females in this hospital want your hands on them. The other half just want healing.
You do realise your life will no longer be your own.
Such cheap theatrics will diminish medicine.
And Seaforth is an epic tale of tangled wartime romance starring Linus Roach and Leah Williams.
You've told her how you feel?
It's driving me mad, sir, thinking of it.
You've written to her.
I can't write, sir.
He's the boy in blue you always wanted.
I can't marry you.
The thought of you and the baby, my baby, keep me alive. I'm a father!
She's married to someone else, look.
It's not yours.
Drama for the new season on BBC One.
Still caught in a disturbing world between fantasy and reality, Michael Gambon is Dennis Potter's singing detective in 45 minutes. First on BBC One, Panorama with John Pennicott.